Morning. Hangout on air is live. Yo, that's what's popping. Did this just start? Yes, Robert Carney. God bless you. This did just start. Yo, peace, peace, shalom. Shalom to the family on the internet. If you can see me, God bless you. Welcome to the dojo. It's your brothers at Akban Israel, aka the God Hop MC, hashtag just a vessel nobody special. Representing the Knesset of Jesus, aka Yeshua Knesset, here in upstate Buffalo, New York. I am broadcasting simultaneously here slash Google Hangout and Periscope. So, hey, we have a saying here. Christ is the master teacher. The doors to the dojo is open. Come in, take your shoes off, make sure your sock game is right, and get your warm-up katas on because it's definitely about to get biblical. Now, I have to let you know, I already let my Periscope family know, guys. Y'all, some of you know that last week was my first time hosting a Google Hangout. Figure out is how to invite certain people, or if they want to and they alert me like, Jose, I would like to sit on air so I can make a comment or a question or whatever, how to actually send them a link so that they could come in. Now, last week was my first time doing this on Google Hangout. Hey, yesterday, September 12th, Google cancels you being able to set up the Hangout when you want a YouTube broadcast simultaneously through Google. Now you got to go to YouTube Live. You got to go to the Creator Studio. I don't know none of this stuff. So I'm on. I know I'm on, but I'm still trying to figure out how I can let people in here because I want to get some cats in here. I don't really want to just use this YouTube Live idea to just teach and talk to you. I'm using this specifically so that I can let some people in and talk with them, because I can just teach through Periscope like I'm doing now. I am broadcasting live through Periscope, and people can just, they want to say and this, that, and the third right through there. So at the end of the day, guys, forgive me, but I do appreciate the support and all of you who watched. I got about 250 watches. I think that's good since 6 days ago when I did that broadcast. So prayerfully tonight's will be edifying as well. This is not part 2 to my Deuteronomy 28 because I want my brother Judah to accompany me in my second part of the Deuteronomy 28:68 presentation. This right here is something else. This is me taking a critical look at Daniel chapter 7 and the prophecies of the kingdom and the four beasts and this man who appeared in heaven like the Son of Man who was handed a kingdom. I want to deal with this because I know that everything isn't taught exactly the same in the Messianic camps and with our Hebrew brothers and sisters who consider themselves Old Testament only. They reject Jesus as being the promised Messiah. They reject the New Testament and things of that nature. So once again, if you don't know me, get to know me. It's your brothers at Akban Israel, aka the God Hop MC. Hashtag just a vessel, nobody special. You can follow me on Periscope and Facebook at Zadok Ben Israel. Hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at the God Hop MC. As we get ready to start, I want to let you guys know my congregation has a project. It's called the Carver Agricultural and Self-Sustainability Project. So if any of you guys are actually interested in possibly helping us out, just go to congregationisrael.net. Once again, go to congregationisrael.net. Scroll down on the homepage, hit the PayPal tab where it says donation agriculture, and leave us anything that you're willing. We can use the financial help as the Lord is blessing us, but the blessing isn't just coming through our own hands. It's coming through people who know what we're doing, like what we're doing. They may not have something like this going on with their own brethren, so they want to support something like this. It is an agricultural project. We have our own fish. We have altogether about close to 40 acres of land. We have 2 beehives started. So we're trying to start a 7-hive bee farm in totality. We want to build an electric fence around the beehives on the land to keep out bears and foxes and things like that. We have an inner city project where the beehives are sitting temporarily. We're growing herbs, we're growing food, fruits and vegetables. So this is our project. And if you guys would like to help us, once again, go to congregationisrael.net, scroll down, find the PayPal tab. Now, I am going to get started here, guys. So it's about to get biblical. It's hot up in here. You know what I'm saying? So for those of you on Periscope, see me with the My Prerogative Bobby Brown mic on. I am using this, so hopefully my voice is clear enough through the YouTube live broadcast / Google Hangout. So yeah, let me get into this, guys. The reason that I want to deal with this, and first of all praise is due to the Most High God, the creator of heaven and earth, who people call Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahweh, YHWH, Yohe, Wahe, Jehovah, Ahia, whatever you running around saying, with. You know what I'm saying? I don't argue with people about the Hebrew and the Greek and the English. I speak English. That's my first language. Never learned Hebrew. Not really interested in being an expert in Hebrew. I speak English. My crowd 100% of the time is English speaking people that certain things I would say would go over their head. I could speak Hebrew to a whole, you know, I do concerts. Shout out all my homies who I rock with in the Christian hip hop realm. And I'm speaking to an audience of 300-400 people. My Hebrew doesn't help them. Now, if I understand some things, I still have to disseminate it in English to them. So even if I am an expert in Hebrew, it won't do my English crowd no good. Except when I disseminate to them, maybe some people say there's a such thing as Hebrew thought. Oh, okay. All right, cool. So I want to get into this, guys. Daniel chapter 7. Now, the reason I want to deal with this, who is that? Ashton, what's good, King? K. Houston. Hey, my Periscope family, hit little Ferguson down in a corner. Get this out there. Share it. Get your heart game on for me. For those of you on YouTube, I don't know what it is. I think you could just on YouTube, you can press either you like it or don't like it. That's my vanity. Don't stone me for it. Now, Daniel chapter 7 is very important. Hebrew thought, Lou Jennings. Hebrew thought. You know, some cats will, you know, you read the Bible. You've been studying the Bible in the English language for 20 years. You know, and what's funny is like someone like me, I got the Stones Tanakh. I got the Jerusalem Publication Society Bible. I have a Greek Septuagint. I have the Hebrew Interlinear Greek. We have the Scriptures Bible. All of these different things. Look, Quran too. I don't read Arabic, but what's on this side of the page in Arabic is supposed to be, the English is supposed to be the translation of what's on this side. So I got to trust that the translators and workers are doing the best of their job. So whether I'm reading the King James, the Stones edition, or anything else, the Hebrew Interlinear Greek put out there by the Trinitarian Church, when I'm reading the English, I don't care whatever the characters and the language is on this side. I don't know that language. I only got that stuff so I can say, yo, I got it. But because I'm not a Hebrew proponent, I don't study it, I have to depend on those who claim to know more than me. That don't mean I can't go and read definitions and things like that, you know. But for those who know, spectrum, that realm of people don't agree. I know Hebrew Israelites who have degrees in Hebrew studies, Hebrew language. And they don't agree with those who say they are experts in Hebrew, but they reject Christ and they reject the New Testament and all that. So look, let them argue over that. I'm here to disseminate the little bit that I think I understand. So with that, brothers and sisters, this is important because in this chapter, we have something that Daniel saw do deal with those who reject Jesus as being the promised Messiah or Yeshua, I want to call him. There's something that I ask and I haven't got an answer yet. So I'm going to put this argument out here on the table tonight. For those who see it, I'm hoping that they would see it and get back at me, invite me into a hangout or something, but I'm going to reach out to some of my homies. Hey yo, G Consciousness, peace. My homie Basim at Global Media. If you guys see this, please get in touch with me and help me figure out missing, so that I know how to send the invite link out to certain brothers who say they would like to be a part of this, so we can sit and discuss together, so that I don't keep doing these live hangouts through YouTube and I'm not having my homies down here. And I'm not just bringing in people that agree with me. Jason Crusader, I'm nuts. I'm not nuts. Come on now. But I hope you stay and learn a little something. But if you get a little too out of control, we will get the Matumbo love on you. Now, and to you guys is, I really hope that what I'm about to show makes sense to you. I'm pretty sure that most of you, what's up, Afro Zephyr? I'm pretty sure most of you watching are in one way or another considering yourselves a student of the Word of God. So what I'm saying, I might just be preaching to the choir in many ways, but bear with me. And if you don't know these things, then prayerfully, hey, dear Dr. Take Two, yeah, we're not here for that. I can't really answer your questions right now, but I think that you don't understand the Bible if you even believe that that was true. That's like asking black Muslims, why do you follow Islam, even though Arabs with the sub-Saharan, if you say what I think you're going to say, I haven't received an answer either. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't even know what your question was, Dizzy, but Muslims, blacks, you know, blacks who say that won't say the same thing about Islam. Though I'm talking about the ones who are blacks in this country and they deal with Islam because they reject the Bible and say that's the white man's religion. And then they watch Roots from Alex Haley, and then they'll say, well, a lot of our ancestors came over here as Muslims. You do know that Muslims enslaved many black Africans and Shemitic peoples, and actually in sub-Saharan slavery sold them across the Gulf of Arabia and was selling them to their own brothers and sisters in Yemen. They sold some on the Silk Road, on the Silk Road, which leads you into Asia, into India, and all of these places. So all I'm telling you guys is, don't try to make the Bible. God didn't say you just a slave. Some people who were slaves, okay, Daniel UK, if you don't believe in God, you don't even need to be in this scope. You know what I'm saying? Because you're you can't be reasoned with. So at the end of the day, all I'm telling you guys is that don't look at the Bible and then turn around and make it seem as if the message of God's word somehow is in lockstep with men who have messed it up, for lack of better words. Men have taken God's word and have used it as something they hold in their hand and try to keep control over the masses in the population. I don't care what it is, even the laws of your land. You an atheist, but you keep the law of some country, guess what? It's in the hands of some people who are in power. So even if you're an atheist, you following somebody's laws, there are do's and don'ts. And if you're an atheist, you'll turn around and claim that you see the good in America and the bad, but you won't give the Bible. If there is bad in the Bible, you still don't give it the same license. You hypocrites. Hypocrites. Atheists be loving atheists be like, the Constitution says separation of church and state. So you'll love the Constitution, but when you see trouble in America, guess what you don't blame? You don't blame the Constitution. Because on record, the Constitution says this, the Declaration of Independence say that. So you don't blame the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, or the Constitution for the decisions that leadership who have these documents as the standard make. But the Bible has certain guidelines in it, and men who are evil and corrupt holding the Bibles in their hand, justifying their evil, you gonna blame the word of God instead of just blaming men. All right, so enough of that. Let's get into Daniel. In the book of Daniel, the vision as the Persian Empire took control of the Babylonian Empire. And in Daniel chapter 7, as this vision is given to him, many churches today, whether you accept Jesus as the Savior or not, have some type of interpretation. Old Testament based brothers about it and the Messiah. Oh, really? Hey, Dizzy, well, hopefully this will help, King, at least where I'm coming from. And from my experience with some of my Old Testament only brothers, I think I understand some of their reasoning. And sometimes when they're arguing with us, besides them arguing against Jesus as being a Messiah, they're arguing with humanity at large has explained these prophecies. But I don't like how some of explain the prophecies. They just make it like, oh, it's so simple. Let's get into this. Daniel 7. Let me bring up my e-sword here on the computer screen. Let's get into Daniel chapter 7. Where you at, e-sword? There you go. Daniel 7. And when we get there, brethren, We're going to start at verse 1. Daniel 7 and 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Now, brothers and sisters, what I'm going to say is this. I'm not going to waste time and just read it all and then backtrack. So I'm going to go empire by empire. This first one, for those of you who know, is what? This represents the Babylonian Empire, right? Let us continue to read. It says, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Now, this all means something. So there is no one who disagrees that this is representing the Babylonian Empire, correct? Now, in this representing the Babylonian Empire, there is an issue that we can run into. And what is that issue? That issue is explaining the lion wings and the situation that happened that basically took the wings off the lion and made it stand up as a man on the earth, and a man's heart was given to it. So for anyone who would agree that that's representing the Babylonian Empire, you're right, but only, let's continue. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 4. Let's go over to Jeremiah chapter 4 right quick, guys. Jeremiah 4. And when we get there, where do I want to start reading? Okay, Jeremiah 4, verse 7. The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. The destroyer of the Gentiles is a lion coming up out of his thicket, and he's going to go forth and destroy and conquer. Verse 13, behold, he shall come up as clouds, and his chariots shall be as a whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe unto us, for we are spoiled. This is Jeremiah warning the nation of Israel. Judah in particular. We in trouble because the destroyer of the Gentiles is coming like a lion up out of his thicket, and his horses are coming, his chariots and his horses, his army is coming swifter than an eagle. So, La Fan 7, shalom, shalom. So, let's put this in perspective. We have the Babylonian Empire. No one is going to argue that the lion is the Babylonian Empire. But the destroyer of the Gentiles, who is the lion coming up out of his thicket, isn't alone the empire itself. Because look, this is what I mean. When you say, oh, this represents the Babylonian Empire, real talk, it is the king and the military. Because all the citizens, the women, the old people, the children, the handicapped men. So understand, a Vazamite, please just pay attention to the teaching. Jesus being a prophet or not a God. You sound like a Muslim. You probably are, and that's fine. Welcome. But learn from people who actually study the Bible, and don't just come in here and try to, interrupt what we're doing. All right. Okay. All right. See, people, whatever. So at the end of the day, the lion coming up out of his thicket is actually the king of Babylon, and his chariots and his horsemen, his army is going to come faster and as swift as an eagle. Lion, when people say the lion is the Babylonian Empire, it's not just the citizens themselves, the average citizen, but it is chiefly the king and the military power that conquers. When they leave their wives and their kids and the old folks at home, this lion ain't got nothing to do with them. This is chiefly the leader and the army. Okay. Now let's go over to chapter 4. No. Wait, hold on. Uh Back to Daniel 4. I was already in chapter 4 of Jeremiah. I knew that wasn't right. Back to Daniel chapter 4. So when we go to Daniel chapter 4, let's skip down and let's go to verse 32, where the explanation by the angel to Daniel on the specifics was, right? So we're going to go to Daniel 4. And when we are there, Nebuchadnezzar is being talked to, right? This is Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 28. All this came upon Nebuchadnezzar at the end of 12 months, starting at 28. He walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon, and the king spake and said, is not all this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by my power and for the honor of my majesty? While the word was yet in his mouth, there fell a voice from heaven saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed thee, and they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times 7 shall pass over you. So basically, Nebuchadnezzar the king lost his natural, sane mind. And if you read history, history actually tells you they don't have all the details, but they know there was about a 6 or 7 year period where the king, something happened, and then all of a sudden the king was back. First Nebuchadnezzar. History, actually, I'm talking about Britannicas and Colliers and all of these encyclopedias and write-ups on this. They point to this thing that's on record that the king had an issue that took him off the throne for a minute. So the kingdom was being run by generals and advisors and stuff. The king didn't die, didn't take his place. But at this time, guess what also didn't happen? The military didn't go out no more conquering. They stayed at the capital city, protected the capital city, and basically the empire was settled. So check this out. Skip down to verse 37. Verse 37. Verse 36. At the same time, my reason returned unto me. And for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and brightness returned unto me. And my counselors and my lords sought unto me. So the counselors and the lords who ran the kingdom temporarily while Nebuchadnezzar had a 7-year insanity run, when they understood he was back to his right mind, they came back, got him, and he said, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. So the king basically abased by the God of heaven. He humbled Nebuchadnezzar. Now, that lion, you'll say the lion is the empire of Babylon. But how was the empire of Babylon flying? Right? With eagle's wings. Then the wings got plucked. The military campaign stopped. Lion that wasn't flying no more was made to stand up on the earth like a man. And a man's heart was given to it. And out of all of the rest of the beasts we read, this is the only one where it talks about being made to stand up like a man and a man's heart being given to it. But when we get to the 5th kingdom, which is going to be represented as a man coming on the clouds of heaven to God, notice how this is already one like the Son of Man. So it already is standing like a man, and it has a man's heart. So what happened to the first beast, the lion? It don't just represent the empire as a whole, but even the king who was humbled, empire was stopped in its conquering tracks. And the empire was made to stand up and not act like a conquering lion no more, but the lion stood up like a man now. His heart was given to the lion that was flying around conquering. But what represents the lion being made to stand up and a man's heart being given to it? Nebuchadnezzar himself. Let me show you something. When you read Daniel chapter 7, you can't just read that and be like, that's it. Because if that's the case, it don't explain the depth of the Roman Empire. You got to go to even extra biblical sources and explain Rome, explain Greece, explain Persia, and even Babylon in some cases. How do I know? other lessons we can deal with that. But let's go to Daniel chapter 2 right quick. Daniel 2, brothers and sisters. Hey, if you just joining us, your brother, the God Hop MC, hashtag just a vessel, nobody special. Welcome to the dojo. We getting these counters on. Daniel chapter 2, and I'm going to skip down to verse 38, and it says this. So we know this is the infamous Colossus chapter, where that was one image. Notice how it was one, it was all together. You know how it says that Christ is the head and the church is the body that make up everything else about the body of Christ, him being the head. Notice how this Colossus, this monolithic image was one. Image was basically shown in 5 parts, 4.5 parts, but represented one ideology, one idea that's being displayed by being one. That when you get to Revelation, that this same thing is going to be shown again in Revelation, just different. You know how? Because what we're about to read together is the same thing as what Daniel seen as 4 beasts and a 5th kingdom that showed up as the one who came. No, the coexist isn't similar, bro. What up, though, brother Andrew? Not in my opinion, but whatever. So the 4 beasts in Daniel 7, right? And then this 5th thing is brought into play. One like the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with great glory, being given a kingdom, right? Notice how in Daniel chapter 2, you have gold, silver, brass, and iron. And then when you look at the feet, you got a stone that's brought into the picture. The stone is the 5th element. Just pay attention. Just pay attention, y'all. Then when you get into the revelation of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, you're going to have one beast that have the parts of all the beasts in Daniel 7, but it is the revelation of Jesus Christ, and it's how Christ comes with the armies of heaven to fight against the made beast, which is nothing but the representation of the Colossus in Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7 beasts. Okay, let me keep going, guys. Now, Daniel 2 and 38. He says, verse 37 actually, thou, O king, talking to Nebuchadnezzar, art a king of kings. The God of heaven have given you a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And wherever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven have he given into your hand, and have made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. Now, check this out. Some people point to the head and say, yo, that represents the Babylonian Empire. You are correct, but it also represents the first king of the empire. You are this head of gold, but if you say that head of gold is Babylon, it's synonymous with one another. You cannot escape this. Just as in chapter 7, you cannot escape the fact that the lion with the eagle's wings is representing the king. His military, that Jeremiah 4 says, his chariots and his horsemen running swift as the eagle. And Jeremiah said, yo, woe unto us, Judah, we in trouble because this army is coming and the lion is coming up out of his thicket. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. That's Nebuchadnezzar and his army, who also is what? Babylon. Babylon. That, I believe that's clear from the Bible. I will not be using any extra biblical sources tonight. I'm just going to use the Bible to establish this concept because I believe there may be a part 2 to this where there's going to be an open discussion. I want those who may not agree with what I'm saying to study the little bit I'm going to give, because as soon as I master how to make sure that when I set up these hangouts, I can make sure that and disagree, because I can have up to 10, are on this line, 5 and 5, so that the world can hear it. Because I'm not ashamed of what I believe, and I don't mind showing you why I believe what I believe. Whether you agree or disagree, I could care less in that context. because I'm not here to please you. I'm here to be openly honest with you. This is what I teach my sons. This is what we teach our brothers and sisters in the Lord, that he sent our way to be discipled and to be taught the understanding of the law, the prophets, and the testimony of Hamashiach. Point blank, period. So I'm not really, when someone don't agree with me, that's fine. Why you don't agree? And show me why. And let that be that. Don't try, if I believe what I believe it, unless heaven stop me in my tracks, it's possible you're not going to believe me. And I'm not going to just believe you. So why, instead of like we trying to turn each other, let's share our information with one another. And let that be that. But let's do it openly so those who are coming to learn can hear all of these angles and ideas on what these things mean, and they make their own interpretation. Because every man has to stand before the God of heaven. There is no man I argue with, debate with, or get along with that I have to answer to for all the things in my life. I only have to stand before God. Real talk. Now, let us keep it moving. Let's go back to Daniel 7. Let's go back to chapter 7 here. Hey, if you just joining us on Periscope, welcome. It's your brother, the God Hop MC. Hashtag just the best of nobody special. Yo, man, share this out. I hope you would share this out on your Twitters and your Facebooks. Take the URL, just put it out there. And you'll follow me here and follow me on Facebook at Zadok in Israel. Hit me on Twitter and Instagram at God Hop MC. If you are watching live on YouTube, God bless you. I'm hoping that this is helping you out, at least so you can understand where I'm coming from. All right, now let's move on. Let's go back to Daniel 7. And when we get there, we're going to start reading at verse 5. Daniel 7, verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Now, what is this? I'm pretty sure most of you watching will say this is the Medes and Persians, or the Medo-Persian Empire. But there are details being given in the explanation just in this short space. But before I do that, let's go over to chapter 2. Back up to chapter 2 in Daniel. And let's read verse 39. Because Nebuchadnezzar was told that basically he, the leader, the king, was the head of gold. He is also the lion. And his army. And when he lost his mind for 7 years and wandered in the wilderness, that's when the lion was made to stand up on his feet like a man, and the man's heart was given to it when he got his reasoning back. And notice how in chapter 4, when he got his reasoning back, now he's praising the God of heaven and earth, the God that Daniel serves. Because now he's not just a beast. Notice how the empires of the earth are represented as all of these unclean beasts. The Israelites would understood they are unclean, they're abominable before God. But out of all of them, this is the only one that, even though it was a beast, it was made to stand up like a man and give it a man's heart. That's not saying what happened to the Babylonian Empire as a whole, but what in particular happened to its king, and how its king was humbled by heaven. And at the end of the chapter, Daniel 4, what did Nebuchadnezzar say? He run everything, and whoever is walking around in pride, he is able to abase. Why am I saying that? Because he changed my heart. He did it to me. That's what Nebuchadnezzar was saying. That's what it means in Daniel chapter 7. No one can refute that if they study Bible. So once again, I got to point this out. The lion isn't just the empire, but when you get into the specifics, it's the king, the military, and the episode where God humbled the king. All of that was represented right there, just in the lion, eagle's wings, stand up like a man, heart given to it. Go to Daniel 2, go to Jeremiah 4, go to Daniel 4, and you put these pieces together and you can kind of see, oh, okay, I get it. Now, we are here with the Medo-Persians, right? But check this out. When you're dealing with the Medo-Persians, verse 39, Daniel 2 and 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. That's all it says. There's another kingdom going to come after Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar. And its 2 main kings are Darius and Cyrus. Why? Because Darius represents the Medes side, which at the beginning was in charge, but after a while, the Persians, who were larger than the Medes, came up and took over the empire because they were a conglomerate empire. And this is why, let's go over to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. When we get there, Daniel 8 and 6. Right? Now check this out. I'm going to read the rest later, but I just want to read this small part. And he came to the ram that had two. No, I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, okay. Verse 3, Daniel 8 and 3. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns. And the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other. And the higher came up last. This is representing what? Representing the Persian Empire, the Mede-Persian Empire, and the two horns are high, but one is bigger than the other. And the biggest one came up last. Shalom, Jonathan Israel. So what is this telling us? That the Persian part of the empire in the second run was more powerful than the first one, which the Medes were in control of under Darius and his progeny. And then you got Cyrus the Great and his progeny after him. Let's skip to 6. And he saw, and wait, I'm sorry, I should just keep reading. Verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did it according to his will and became great. This is Darius and his army, not the average citizen. You have to specify that, because people say, oh, it's the empire. Well, in context, it's the king and his army. It ain't just the empire. It ain't the women and the kids and the old people and the handicapped and whoever. It is. We gonna get to him. 7 from Adam. It is specifically Darius and the military. And the first horn is the first and smallest horn is controlling the beast, the army, the empire. Check this out. So no other beast was able to stand. The Persians conquered, the Medes conquered. Verse 5, and I was considering, and as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So here comes this goat, and this goat got a huge horn sticking out from between its eyes, out of its forehead. And he came to the ram that had the two horns, which I saw standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. So when they collide, the goat with the long horn is going to defeat and stomp to death the ram that was powerful for a while with the two horns. The two horns represent two sides of the kingdom, but also their king and their military. How do I know? Well, let's continue. Verse 20. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. It's the kingdoms, but it's the kings, the ones who are in control of the military campaigns and the conquering. That's who it is, right? Okay. Let's go back to chapter 6. Well, let's go to chapter 6 because we haven't been there yet. Daniel chapter 6. When we get there, I'm going to read verse 28. Daniel 6, verse 28. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius, who was the Mede, and in the reign of Cyrus, the Persian. Darius, Cyrus. Cyrus is representing that horn, that bigger horn, because we represent a bigger portion of the empire. Now, notice how when we read 7, the bear rose up as if it was on one side. And I'm understanding that to me, it's just showing that when the bear conquered, it was raised up on one side. It didn't raise up on its feet because only one side conquered first. That was the Medes. But the Persians came after, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth. And I'm under the impression that these 3 ribs represent the other beasts that couldn't stand before the ram, which were the Babylonians, the Libyan armies, and the armies of Egypt. Because when you go and read Jeremiah, and then you read in Isaiah, you'll find out the other powers that fell. The Libyans, the Egyptians, and the Babylonians, I believe, represent the three ribs that the Persian Empire was holding in its mouth to take over. It had to beat the lion. So the lion represents one of the ribs, but the confederates of the lion, or the other enemies of the lion who had power that had to be subdued, was Northern Africa, and that's the Libyans and the Egyptians. And they were conquered by the Persians. So brothers and sisters, I'm just trying to show what these things mean. They represent the empires, but when you get into details, it is not just talking about the empire. It's talking about the king and the military. The king and the military. All right, let's keep going now. Let's go to Isaiah 45 and let's look at one more thing here. And this is very telling. Now, you got theologians who argue back and forth and say that Isaiah 45 was not a part of the original text, and they believe scribes in the 2nd century added this part. If they did or didn't, no one has proven it. It's just conjecture and theory argument. Cool. We know that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is the oldest copy of Isaiah, we know besides the Septuagint copy, which is older than the Dead Sea Scrolls, we know that it's in it. So that's all that's important. Isaiah 45, guys, verse 1. Thus saith Yah to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him. And I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates, and the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in sunder the bars of iron. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, Yah, which called thee by name, am the God of Israel. For Jacob my servant's sake, for Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel my elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me. I am Yah, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me. So what is this claiming? That the God of heaven, just like if he did, it's talking about Cyrus in particular, but I can show you how many times he said, Nebuchadnezzar, my servant, my servant. He told Jeremiah in another place, tell them, don't fight against Nebuchadnezzar. He's my servant. Whoever fights against my servant will be killed. Darius, the word Mashiach, was just mean a chosen one by God, be such a big deal. So was Nebuchadnezzar. So was Alexander the Great. And so were the emperors of Rome. Don't get too caught up in that stuff. But I just want to show that Cyrus, not Darius, is the one who God was going to use in particular to do some things in particular for Israel, but let alone also really cause this second beast, which still was inferior, is Babylon, to flourish. All right, let's go back to Daniel 7 now. So we two empires now. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 7. And when we get there, I want to go to who we got. Okay. Daniel 7, verse 6. Okay. So we got the second one, verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. See, Greece conquered under Alexander, but spread Hellenism under his 4 generals. Now look, it had 4 heads and it had 4 notable wings. Alexander was a great leader, but his 4 generals, and the armies that followed them gave Alexander his power, because remember, the Greeks were not one big country. That's chapter 7 of Daniel, and that was verse 6. Remember, the Greeks were city-states. So you had Athens, Sparta, Crete, Corinth, and a couple others. So they were all their own individual entities. So what people got to realize is it was those from the island of Macedonia, which Alexander was a part of, that convinced the other island states to come together as one Grecian army to fight the Persians who were invading their islands, but then go and take all the Persian territory. So Alexander was the leader, but his 4 generals and their militaries together are the reason it conquered. And notice how this leopard has 4 wings. What do these wings represent? It's coming quick. It's like it's flying with 4 heads. Let's move. This is representing the Grecian Empire, but in particular, the 4 generals and their armies. Under Alexander the Great, you have to say that in particular, because there is no empire conquering without a leader who is a king and his army. That's it. And some of y'all already may perceive where I'm going. When we get to the one who is going to come up to the Ancient of Days on the cloud, whatever that is, I guarantee you there is a king and an army that it represents. Not just the entire people, but in particular, in order for that people to have any representation, they have to have a king and an army. We're going to show. All right, let's go. So let's go back up to chapter 2 now. Chapter 2. Verse 39, right? Oh, that's 3. Chapter 2, 39, right? And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another 3rd kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. This brass kingdom is representing Greece. In the Colossus, that's all it says. It just described how as you go through time, other empires come up. They rule in the earth, but how they're building, they can never set the foundation of gold. So by the time you get to Greece, whatever Babylon has done and the Persians have already done, Greece is in charge now, but all it can do is build on what they've done. So it's adding brass to the idea of this world empire ideology. Check it out. Chapter 8. Go over to chapter 8. Because remember, a goat with a big horn ran up on the ram with 2 horns and smote it and beat it to death, right? So chapter 8, verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. Notice how it didn't touch the ground. Well, when we just seen it represented as a leopard with 4 heads, it had these wings and it just came quick. So it's still the same language. Understand, God, he establishes what he's saying by 2 or more witnesses. But he'll say it a little different, but it's the same thing. How do I know? Joseph, he had a dream. 7 cows, 7 lean cows. The skinny cows ate the fat cows and was still skinny. And another time he comes sometime later. Yo, I was seeing we was sheep, it was sheaves. And it was good ears of corn. And 7 this. Okay, this time it was corn. That time it was cows. But it's the same vision being shown different. Daniel 2, Daniel 7, and in some ways Daniel 8 and Daniel 11. But 8 and 11 in particular are only referring to the bear, the wars between the bear and the leopard. So in Daniel, you don't get deep into the wars of the Babylonians, nor the 4th empire. So how do you learn about the 4th empire? Because you can't read about the 4th empire in detail in none of the Old Testament prophets. In a little bit you read about Rome, it's been an empire established in the day by the time the Nazarene movement comes along. So anything in the New Testament dealing with Rome is dealing with it in the context of we already know who the Romans are, but you can't read about the Romans here. You can read about the Romans a little bit in some of the Maccabean writings. But if you want to learn about Rome, the God of heaven had it set up on purpose, you're going to have to go outside his word and learn about this fourth empire that was just terrible. It was so terrible, it was indescribable. At least the first one was a lion. Next one was the bear. Next one is the leopard. Still kind of kooky with 4 heads and wings, but it had some description you understood. The fourth one was so terrible, you don't even know what that is. It's just a beast. Terrible. Iron teeth. Like, what is that? And you can't go in the prophets and read in detail about Rome. So how you gonna tell me something about Rome and what all the details of when you look? I'll point it out. Was King Ashton? Gotta shake your head, right? Gotta shake your head. But even when cats get into Daniel 11, some of the breakdowns we hear on Daniel 11 is extra trash. But whatever. Here we go. 8. So here comes the he goat, right? He got the big horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, verse 6, which had been standing on the river, and ran to him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close to the ram, and he was moved with choler. That means anger and wrath against him, and smote the ram, and break his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Yo, brothers and sisters, they basically are showing that this ram was defeated by the he-goat in war. This is why when you go over to chapter 11, it gets even in more great detail. And it starts to show you how, after Alexander died, it showed you how when the empire was broken up in 4, really the north and the south became prominent, which was the Seleucid and the Ptolemy factions. People don't even pay any attention to Nicanor and Seleucus. Wait. Nicanor, Seleucus, Lysanias, and Ptolemy. They don't even pay attention to the other 2. They pay attention to the Ptolemies because they ruled over the northern Africa part of the empire, and they pay attention to Seleucus because he had control over the Syrian Palestine part of the empire. And Daniel 11 described all of these wars between the Seleucids and the Ptolemies until it don't explain, but here come Rome, and basically Rome come wild, right? So here we go. What do I want to continue to read? I think I read, 8. Chapter 8, verse 8. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable horns toward the 4 winds of heaven. So yes, the 4 heads is representing the same thing as the 4 horns. But the big horn is the king, Alexander the Great. And the 4 horns represent the generals who became kings and their portions of the Greek Empire, which was divided north, south, east, and west. So even when you want to say, well, the 3rd one is the Grecians, when you get into detail of what we're being shown, you are seeing the kings or generals, not the common people. So you have to be, the God of heaven is showing us this for a reason. And I'm being specific and pointing out these details because I want you to understand something after these kingdoms. Okay, so let's keep going. Verse 2, 9. And out of one of them, there are 4 horns. Out of one of those 4 horns, a little horn is going to pop up. This ain't got nothing to do with the 4th beast and the little horn on its head. 2 separate empires. But this little horn is going to show up, and Daniel 11 is going to break it down, and I'll just spill the beans. This is a great point, Afro. But our empires but footstools for leaps. That's all empires are. The 4th horn comes up out of the Seleucid, because remember, this little horn comes up out of one of the four. That little horn comes up out of the Seleucid horn, and it is Antiochus Epiphanes. And when you get to the Maccabean revolt, under the Maccabeus family, for which the books are named, Antiochus is the king who stood up in the latter days of the Greek Empire, and he wilded out. He defiled the heck out of Jerusalem. He was running all through the ancient Near East, tearing down temples to build up his war machine. He worshipped a strange god, all kind of stuff. So why am I going through this? Because we need to understand what we're reading. Verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. And its first king. Check it out. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Whose power? In the power of the first king. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. That has already happened. I believe we can prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt. Now, let's go back to chapter 7. This last beast. 7 and 8. Daniel 7 and 8. Hold on, YouTube family. For some reason, this thing just cut off here on me. What's going on? Hold on, family. Give me 1 second, YouTube family. Because I was broadcasting on 2 applications, and one of them just took a crap. So I gotta figure out what's going on here. But I'll find out sooner than later, I guess. Okay. All right. So. Oh, wow. It just did all that on its own, huh? Okay. Well, as this thing gets ready to load itself back up, I'll see what happens there. But let me continue to read. So, verse 23. No, I'm back in Daniel 7 now. Forgive me. I'm back in Daniel 7. Oh, okay. There we go. Hold on, guys. Let me get this crowd back. I appreciate you being here tonight. Don't really care about all of that. This is what I want. Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Here we go. Okay. Sorry about that, Periscope family. That thing just cut out for some reason. So you guys are back. Welcome back. I'm going to continue now. I am back in Daniel 7, and now I'm going to be reading at verse 8. Where's my towel? Because it's hot in here. I don't think I didn't bring my towel. Nope, I didn't. I didn't bring it in. Okay, whatever. Daniel 7, and when we get there, let's go to verse 8. Daniel 7 and 8, guys and girls. All right, here we go. I considered the horns. Where am I at? Oh, verse 7. Daniel 7 and 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. And basically, he beheld that beast, it says, until the thrones were cast down and the Ancient of Days did sit. Right? Now, what are we looking at here? Most of you watching will say, just as I will agree with you, we are looking at the Roman Empire here. So we're looking at the empire of the Romans, brothers and sisters, right? Roman Empire, I want you all to understand something. You cannot read what those 10 horns and the little horn that comes up and knocks 3 of the horns off the head. You will not find the answer to that in the Bible. Heaven has set it up so that Bible students have to also become students of secular history. Babylon, Persia, and Rome is not just out of the Bible. So don't be afraid and think you're doing something wrong, because the Bible do not teach you about the Roman Empire. You in depth about the Greek Empire or the Persians or the Babylonians. It just tells you their interactions with Israel. But you have to learn where did these empires come from? And how many centuries did it take before they became powers? How long was Rome before it was the Roman Empire? Centuries. The Greeks, centuries. The Persians, centuries. They didn't just pop up overnight. So we got to be students of history as well. I wanted to point that out. Now, where am I at here? Okay, back up to Daniel chapter 2 now, guys and girls. Daniel 2. And when we get to Daniel 2, verse 40, for those joining us on Periscope, welcome back in. Share this out. Get folk back up in here, because we in the dojo and it's already supremely biblical. All right, so Daniel chapter 2. And when we get there, guys, let's go to verse 40. Daniel 2, verse 40. And the 4th kingdom shall be as strong as iron. Now we getting back to the image. That's one image. Gold head and breasts of silver, belly and loins of brass, legs, total iron, but the feet are half iron, half clay, and so are the 10 toes on the feet. Daniel 7, we have a lion with eagle's wings, wings plucked off, made to stand up on the earth as a man, and a man's heart given to it. A bear rising up on one side with 3 ribs in its mouth, and it was told, go forth, arise, and eat much flesh. Another empire comes. It is a leopard, 4 heads and 4 wings. And now we come to one that is just dreadful and terrible. We don't know what to call it. There is nothing in the animal kingdom to describe it. It's so abominable. That's how abominable Rome was in the sight of heaven, that when it came, it couldn't find nothing in the animal kingdom of men that it could compare. This thing was just horrible, like a made-up monster of men, right? Now check this out. The 4th kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdue all things, and as iron that break all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise, right? And whereas you saw the feet and toes. Now the feet and toes, brothers and sisters, are equal. You've seen in chapter 7. Okay, let's continue. The feet and toes, part potter's clay, and part iron. The kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seeds of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. What are we looking at? At the Roman, we are looking at the Roman Empire. That's chapter 7. No, that in particular was Daniel 2, verses 40 through 43. Periscope, Brother Ashton in particular. But for those on Google, I got my family on Periscope, and so they're actually tuning in with us real time, asking questions. Forgive me for not knowing this YouTube Live / Google Hangout situation in order to do it. In order to give you the same abilities that these brothers and sisters have through Periscope. Now, check this out. Here is Rome. Check this out. Revelation 13. Revelation chapter 13. When we get to Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Now remember, where did Daniel see the beasts come from? They came out of the sea, right? Now he's going to see this beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, as the feet of a bear, and his mouth is the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Brothers and sisters, coincidence that you see bear, lion, and leopard in indescribable parts as a part of this one beast, which is an amalgamation of the beast in Daniel 7, but those beasts were even shown as one in chapter 2. In chapter 2 of Daniel that we just read, the gold, the silver, the brass, and the iron, clay, feet, and toes were all one statue. This here is the same thing as Daniel chapter 2. Daniel 7 is the same, but heaven was showing him some particulars on how each one came up and conquered in chapter 7. Then when you get to Daniel 8, he's showing you the particular war between the bear and the leopard. And in Daniel 11, it breaks down how the leopard and the 4 heads, or the 4 horns and the little horn that came out of one, it breaks down that episode in detail. Episode of the 10 horns and a little horn that came up on this 4th beast in the Bible. Can't read it in the Bible. Brothers and sisters, do the research on your own. I'll give you a quick breakdown. Daniel chapter 7, that 4th beast is representing the Roman Empire, right? Now, the empire in its iron stages was ran by the emperors and the Caesars. After the emperors and the Caesars, no, that's ginger root water. I said moonshine. Norfolk, you crazy. In Daniel 7, you see this, and then in Revelation 13, you see this amalgamated beast. What you have is in Revelation, you're being shown the empire when it is partly strong and partly broken. You are seeing the empire when the horns are representing the papacy taking over. The papacy is taking over, and when the papacy rose, why was the emperors disappeared all of a sudden, and the papacy actually rose up? The 10 horns represent the 10 different kings and their armies who basically tried to control the beast. The beast represents the empire as a whole. The barbarians came, basically brought the capital city, Rome, literally, to its knees. The papacy was able to muster armies under the Pope that fought against the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, and the Herulaeans. And history tells us, go look up Ostrogoth, Visigoth, or Herulaeans, and it would tell you that after war with the emperors, the Holy Roman emperors led by the papacy, these 3 barbarian tribes disappear from history, period. It's like they were totally annihilated. So when you look at it, this little horn that rises in Daniel 7 is the order of the papacy rising up, taking control of the beast, and 3 horns was knocked off. Now you got 7 left. Are from Charlemagne the Great, who was the first Holy Roman Emperor, all the way up to Napoleon, who was crowned. Do you know who? If you look at it, it's been 7 Roman emperors, Holy Roman emperors, from Charlemagne to Napoleon. 7 of them. I keep doing this. 7 of them. Like I can't count. 7. The other 3 horns represent the 3 barbarian tribes that were destroyed when the Pope armies with him and fight the barbarian tribes and destroy him. And when Pepin died, his son Charlemagne took over the kingdom, finished off the rest of the barbarian tribes, and the Pope crowned Charlemagne the first Holy Roman Emperor. Now, some of you may not believe that. You may have other explanations. Some people run all the way to today and explain the European common market. You ain't seen 10 in the European common market yet. I know that teaching is out there. Some people run around with the evangelical teachings of John Hagee. I've even heard some Israelites teach Herbert W. Armstrong's theory of what the 10 horns and the 10 toes represent. Roman, it is the Roman Empire, but it's Rome in stages. When you look at Daniel 2, the 2 legs are totally iron. They represent the Caesar military and emperor military times of the empire, right? But when you get to the feet and toes, it's not just iron alone. It is now iron and clay. Why? Because by the time you get to the east and the west breakup, and you got the Byzantine Empire and the infighting between Eastern and Western Rome, you got the barbarian tribes, and you got both sides of the empire hiring different to mingle to keep the Roman Empire strong, but it'll never be what it once was, an all-Italian empire. As you mingle with the seeds of men and bring cats from Africa, and you got these barbarians on the eastern part of the Roman Empire. You got these barbarians on the western part of the Roman Empire. They're fighting, and Rome was never an empire like it was under Octavian and Tiberius and Titus and Vespasian and all of them. It just never was the same. Once the bishops got in charge and they were as emperors, Rome is part iron, part clay, right? But it was as you had the transition, something happens. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. No, I'm sorry. Go back to Daniel 2 first. Daniel 2. And let's skip down to verse 43. Daniel 2. If a lot of you guys aren't used to this, God bless you for being here tonight. I pray that this is edifying, but I'm not giving you everything. I'm giving you a synopsis. It takes a little time because you need to get some detail, but we're all going to have to be astute in our study habits so that heaven can reveal much more to us through history and revelation and so on and so forth. It is not my job to have all the answers. I'm just one guy. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Daniel 2, skip down to verse 44. In the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. What kingdoms? Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, which is why in Revelation, you see them all as one come up out of that sea. But in Revelation 13, and it's just going to be war between the empire, the global world economic empire of these last days, and the saints of God. That's what Revelation is pointing out, running lockstep with what we being shown in the book of Daniel. But remember, that image, I'm going to show you this, verse 34. Verse 33. His legs were iron, his feet part iron and part clay. You saw till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay. See, brothers and sisters, this is the part that the Israelites who reject Jesus as being the Messiah, but say they believe in the Messiah, this is where we get into our argument and disagreement. Because it's important to point this out. Notice how the image was hit by this, not a mountain, just a stone. A stone came out of nowhere and hit the earth and hit the image in the feet. In the time of the Fourth Empire, but what particular time? When the empire began to be weak and strong. Weak and strong. History tells you that after the rule of Augustus Caesar, aka Octavius, the Roman Empire began to weaken. And the first signs of its weakening, do y'all know what it was? One of the biggest signs? Great Panic of AD 33. Anybody know what that is? Anybody know what that is? Y'all know the Great Depression of the 1920s? The Roman Empire had a Great Depression in the year 30 or 33 in the first century. And everything in the empire went out of control. And that's why the barbarians started coming, because the barbarians had no jobs. The Romans was taking their lands to feed the capital city. And all of a sudden, the empire really started to get out of control. Crucifixion, great time as well. The time that Jesus Christ was preaching and died and rose from the dead, and the Nazarene later becoming called the Christian church was born, and the gospel just started spreading. At that same time, the Great Depression in the entire Roman Empire. Go do your historical research and find out that from that point forward, Rome started to weaken. I'm going to tell you that the stone, if it would have hit the image in the head of gold, that lets you know that God started to establish his kingdom when? During the time of Nebuchadnezzar and his empire. If the stone would have came from heaven and hit the image in its silver chest, what would that have let us know? That stone, which represents what? God is going to set up a kingdom. That don't mean the kingdom is finished. He's just going to set it up. When you set up a business, your business is not at its apex. Notice and read the Bible carefully. He's going to set it up. The stone hit, the image cracks. It eventually crumbles, and it slowly starts to blow away. And when it starts to blow away, the stone that smote it on the feet and caused it to crack rose into a mountain that fills the entire earth. Yeah, Afros, as far as we understand, the stone is the first coming of Jesus Christ. And I'm glad you said that, because many people that the preterists call futurists teach that the stone hits in the very end, because they're trying to teach this 10 toes European common market doctrine. It's cool, but we can easily show that the 10 horns on the head of the beast in Daniel 7 has to relate to the 10 toes and the feet. This is the barbarian wars from the year, it's either 535 or 585 up until 17 whatever, when Napoleon and the French army was destroyed at the end of the French Revolution. You had tribes who almost conquered Rome and were destroyed. And from there, you got this little horn, which is the Pope, who crowned 7 holy Roman emperors, who were all leaders of barbarian tribes, Gauls, Franks, Lombards, and so on and so forth. And all the major European nations today, the French come from the Franks. The Lombards are, if I'm not mistaken, the Lombards are the Polish, and the Gauls represent the German tribes, the Germanic tribes. All the people of Europe today are nothing but descendants of all of them kings and those barbarian tribes who fought for control of the Roman Empire. And they would have these alliances, but they never last. They would break out and fight each other, just like iron and clay don't mix. Some, just like most of you know, the French and the Germans are much stronger than the French and the Germans are much stronger militaries than like the Italians and the Polish and the Norwegians. They're much stronger. So you got some who are like iron, some who like clay, and they try to mix, but they just never will they will never be able to come together. But remember, Satan's house won't stand as long as he's not one. What did Jesus say? If Satan is divided against himself, his house can't stand. So the empires are allowed by God to last for so long a time because he's bringing the plan to fruition. but they'll never truly able to be one. And their lack of unity because of sin and evil in their hearts and their love of self and their love of money is God's ace in the hole, your own nature, that my kingdom will be established. But I want my Old Testament only brothers and any Messianic brothers or Christians who disagree with what I'm saying to come into the dojo and come get this work. We handing out applications, and the employee sign is still in the window. The still hiring help wanted joint is all in the window. Come get this work. It is nothing. Okay. We understand that if the stone would have hit the image in its belly or in its thighs, that would mean what? That the stone, the kingdom of God, was set up in the days of the Greek Empire. If it would have hit it in the shins that were totally iron, what would we have known? That the God of heaven set up his kingdom when the Roman Empire was at its full strength. But the stone hit the image in the feet. And the weakening of the Roman Empire started before the first century came in. The Roman Empire started to weaken and started to be, it was not iron anymore. Real talk. I mean, this is just the truth. Whether you believe me or not, I'm giving you what we've seen and what we found. Notice, I'm coming off the head, but I'm still not giving you everything because there may be further discussion somewhere down the line. I don't know. We have this thing here so we can show you that what? The God of heaven is showing us that he's going to set up his kingdom when the Roman Empire is partly strong and partly broken. Now, if Jesus Christ does not, if Jesus Christ and the early church are not the beginning of the kingdom of God, as we Nazarenes and Christians know, but some people doubt, whoever your Messiah is, or whoever it is, have to come and their kingdom has to start and begin while the Roman Empire is still in power. It's not destroyed. It's just going to be a blow that weakens it, and you're going to have to wait for the empire to be destroyed. Guys teach about this Messiah who they're waiting for. It all doesn't add because I'm hearing different Old Testament only camps teach about the coming Messiah in many different ways. Even when I read some of the Talmudic writings and I read the Midrashic thoughts of the different rabbis who went back and forth about the Messiah and how he would come, when he would come, this, that, and the third. And also, when your Messiah comes, he has to fit certain requirements that are provable to all humanity. The first thing is this. He got to be out of the tribe of Judah, out of the family of David. He got to be born in Bethlehem. He got to ride into Jerusalem on a donkey with the colt. All of this stuff. The nations have to trust him. The nations have to, they all should look to. All of this has to come to pass. We know that in all nations, the name of Christ is named to this day. He is seen as the salvation and the hope for humanity. All of this, that, and the third. But we can deal with other teachings with that. Now, I want to read something to you guys. Go to chapter 7. Go back to Daniel 7 so I can read this, how this shows up, right? So Daniel 7, let's go to 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. What are we seeing here? Just notice this. The same way that all the other empires were described briefly, but not in detail. This same thing is going to happen here, and this is my problem with my Old Testament only brothers. Let's go here. Okay. Where we at? Okay, here we go. So you got the 10 horns, verse 24, Daniel 7:24. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High. And think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and a dividing time. We understand that to be prophetically 3.5 years, which we understand turns out to be 1,260 years. Blah, blah, blah. We can deal with that in other teachings, but verse 26, but the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. So the saints will get the kingdom, and by the saints getting the kingdom, all the nations of the earth will come under their order and will serve the Most High. So whether you like it or not, this is pointing you to the nation of Israel, which represents the saints, but along with Israel, those out of all the nations who are brought into this Israel of God that is described in the book of Galatians or in Ephesians. This one, Christ has broken down the partition wall and has caused the righteous of all nations to join with the commonwealth of the righteous remnant of Israel to be one people. And all of this goes together. Let me read you something. Let's go to Jeremiah 23. Because it just says, oh, hey, when you see one like the Son of Man get this kingdom and all dominions shall serve and obey him, what is this letting you know? That the kingdom under the whole heaven is going to be given to God's chosen people. And all the nations of the earth will serve him once he gives his kingdom to his chosen people. But brothers and sisters, just as we pointed out in all the other kingdoms, their kings and their militaries get them the kingdom. That vision isn't just about the nation of Israel itself, but it is also about the one who the Lord is going to give dominion to. Because in the days of these kings are going to establish a kingdom. How do you establish a kingdom without the leadership? You can't show me. I don't care if it's Moses. I don't care if it's coming back from the Babylonian captivity. The leadership has to be set up. But what do the prophets teach us? You have to go to these other places because it is not enough explanation here to understand, okay, so what do the saints get the kingdom look like? Oh, I'm going to show you that this Son of Man is an individual getting the kingdom. And when you see him get the kingdom, that is the sign that the saints will get the entire kingdom. Let's go to Jeremiah 23, as I said. And I got 2 more texts after this, and I'll end it for the night. Because I'm really believing it will be a part 2, because this is going to go out. I'll be getting some inboxes and some Facebook non-threatening sword swinging, and then I'll be inviting cats to the dojo so that we can get it. I got to go to summer Bible school to keep up with this dojo. Hey, grass flow, this is how we do. All right, let's go here. Okay. Jeremiah. Check this out, verse 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture. Who are the pastors? It is the leadership. I don't care if it's the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, all of that leadership that God made the pastors or the shepherds over his flock, the nation of Israel. They were evil. They were destroyed, which is why anyone who calls themselves a Hebrew Israelite and not a Jewish person is basically a descendant of some people who were brought wherever they are as slaves. Everywhere. That's real talk. Now, let's go. Therefore, thus saith Yah Elohim of Israel against the pastors that feed my people, you have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, their kings, their princes, their priests. What does Zechariah, I believe it's Zechariah, he say, woe unto the priests, the Levites. They were supposed to teach the people to fear me and keep my law, and they corrupted themselves, so the people corrupt. These are the pastors of the flock, whether they kings, princes, the Sanhedrin, Levites, Pharisees. All of this leadership didn't help the nation, and the nation is in captivity to this day. So yes, I am saying that the people over in the land of Israel right now are not children of the promise. But let's keep going. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries where I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord. So this is when this happens, will be given the kingdom under the whole heaven, as it says in Daniel chapter 7. But how does this take place? The same way Nebuchadnezzar was brought in, the same way we saw Alexander the Great, we saw his 4 generals, the same way that we saw Darius and Cyrus, the same way that we saw with the Roman Empire. You see the emperors and you see the barbarian tribes all vying for power. Attention, verse 5. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice where? In the earth. Israel, but in the entire earth. This is how the saints will have the dominion of the kingdom under the whole heaven, because there is a king who will be established, who will actually set justice and judgment in the earth, not just dudes from camps out of New York and coming out of Britain and coming out of all over the world, and we just gonna come back together. Israelites who believe in Jesus, Israelites who don't, find peace, and we're going to set the earth in order. Nah, homie. The way you Negroes carry yourself on the internet, y'all ain't showed no glimpses. Y'all can't run, y'all can't control y'all tongue. You won't be able to control nations. Real talk. All right, let me keep this going. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely, and this is his name whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. Verse 7. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries where he had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. But notice how this happens with the king who shall come up and prosper. In Daniel 7, that king is the one who was given a kingdom that shall never end. He is the one who will set justice and judgment in the entire earth, and in his days, Israel and Judah shall be saved and shall dwell. So you cannot teach or the saints of the Most High get in the kingdom and just explain that in Daniel 7. Oh, that just is the people getting the kingdom. No. That's part of it. But the only way it happened is if the one is given it. And what do that mean? That this righteous one is chosen by heaven. That's what all the imagery with the cloud and the angels bringing up. That's all imagery. The same way you didn't see no literal lion with eagle's wings, but that literally explained Nebuchadnezzar and his armies. You ain't seen no leopards with 4 heads flying, but it literally explained Alexander the Great and his 4 generals and the Greek Empire broken up in 4 pieces. You're not going to see a man sitting on a cloud with angels surrounding him, but still you're going to see a king receive a kingdom and all the nations get it. But when will this kingdom be set up? When is the God of heaven going to establish this kingdom and set it up? In the days of the feet in the clay. And I'm here to say that that started, that it was set up, and it is growing. What did Jesus tell us? It's like a mustard seed, which is the least of all seeds. And when it is planted, men don't pay no attention to it. But when it grows above all the rest of the bushes, and it basically takes height over the rest of them. He said the kingdom of heaven is like this. Well, in Daniel 2, the kingdom of heaven was like a stone cut out without hands, took the image of the feet, and the stone grew into a mountain. Jesus just used it. He just used the same imagery with different language. Oh, let's go to another one. Let's go to another one. Micah chapter 5. Let's go to Micah 5 right quick. I don't care what you want to teach about, in Daniel 7, that's just simply the Israel getting a kingdom. No, just like the lion was not simply Babylon conquering. It was the king and the military. Like the bear with the 3 ribs in its mouth. Shown in another places the ram with 2 horns. And the ram represents the 2 kings. And the second highest horn is the second king who come up last. Darius and Cyrus. Our king was shown in that vision, and he was given the heavenly kingdom. And the heavenly kingdom is on this earth. It is nothing but Zion. He shall rule over it. When you go and read Ezekiel, it explains all of this detail and all of this. The Bible is great. But I want to go to Micah chapter 5 right quick. Let's go to Micah chapter 5. When we get to Micah 5, verse 2. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. So whoever this is, it's been talked about this king coming from ancient times, way before Micah was given this word to tell the nation. Will I give them up until the time that she which travaileth have brought forth? Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel, and he shall stand and feed in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide. For now shall he be great unto the ends of the earth, and this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then we shall raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Brothers and sisters, all of this is the imagery of the kingdom of God being established with this great king that is known as the Messiah. Now, some people would say, okay, well, that still seems to all happen in strength, but there are other things spoken about the Messiah. The prophecy tells us about this, it actually tells us about the man-child attacked by the serpent and bruised in his heel. But he's going to bruise the serpent in his head. Remember what Christ told the Galatians, the Lord shall bruise Satan under your feet shortly. So this is the redeemed of the nation of Israel, and the redeemed who become Israel from all the nations of the earth under the king. And that king is called Mashiach, the anointed one. And we know him to be Yeshua ben Yosef out of the tribe of Judah. So at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, I'm hoping that these things make sense to you. And if you haven't heard some of this before, that's fine. Just get at me. I'll answer whatever questions I can. You can follow me on Facebook and Periscope. I'm Zadok Ben Israel. Hit me on Twitter and Instagram at the God Hop MC. For those of you joining us through the YouTube live today, I thank you guys so much for being here. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I am going to have a couple of my homies show me exactly how to make sure I can get a link certain people into this conversation, and the next conversation I have, Yah willing, I will have my guest. This is my second hangout, but I don't know how to put them in here. So, yo, man, that's going to be it. It's about 11:45 11 p.m. Eastern. Where's Young Leroy? That's the man for the job. Young Leroy is on the other side of town. Y'all know this is the second dojo. The first dojo is on the opposite side of town. So that's where Leroy is. But yeah, I thank you guys for joining. And to my Google Hangout family, I'm going to say, y'all bless you. Good night, guys.